So one of the biggest stories that has come out this evening is a twist in the boys' locker room story. Now, to remind our viewers, the boys' locker room was a series of chats on an Instagram chat room called the boys' locker room that went viral. It had, chats where boys of the age 15 to 18 or 17 were discussing young girls without their permission. They were discussing their bodies, they were slut-shaming them, they were talking about leaking their nudes. And one particular conversation that upset a great number of people, including me, I must confess, was a conversation where it seemed like some boys were actually planning the gang rape of one girl. It turns out now from the investigation that it might not have been what we thought it was. That conversation about the gang rape was actually started by a girl. My colleague Amita Balchandra has been speaking to the police who are investigating the case right now and has the latest on what is really going on. Amita, how much of the boys' locker room was actually real? Did we get upset about something that wasn't really happening?
So this is the information that we've got from the police, Faye. As far as that particular chat was concerned, as far as the chat on the rape was concerned, was from a different chat altogether, from a Snapchat chat. That's the information that we've got from the police, that it was a separate chat that got mixed up with this boys' locker room case. The information that we've got so far is that it was started by a girl. It was the conversation between two people. This girl, using a fake profile in the name of Sidharth, used to speak to this other boy, and in that particular conversation, she used the word sexual assault and faked sexual assault on herself. That was a conversation that caused wide outrage, and that we saw go viral as well online. But that particular conversation later, we understand that that boy declined. However, shared that particular conversation with that particular girl and a couple of other people. What really happened was, post that, some of these people, one person, we understand, shared it on Instagram, and that's how that chat went viral. So the police is saying that as far as boys' locker room is concerned, it is of course a separate chat on Instagram. There were talks about women's body parts, about body shaming. Morphed pictures were found in that particular group, but however, there was no talk of sexual assault per se. So that one conversation that caused wide outrage comes from a separate chat on Snapchat that got mixed with this particular boys' locker room case, and hence that's what the police is saying. Of course, the investigation as far as boys' locker room is concerned goes on. There are two people who've been arrested. One person has been apprehended and one person has been arrested, who is the group admin as well. They've also spoken to 20 other boys, but the sexual assault conversation does not come out of boys' locker room.
So basically what has happened is that this conversation, and we all saw it, where somebody called Sidharth actually suggests to the other boys, let's get together and go and gang rape her. I'll call two other boys also who will come with us. This happens to be a screenshot from a separate conversation where one person called Sidharth is talking to another person. So one-on-one conversation on Snapchat. And it was a girl who created a fake account on Snapchat to sort of check out one of her classmates and sees how he reacts to the suggestion of her own gang rape. She was apparently assessing his character. Now, where does that leave the rest of the conversation, the rest of the investigation with the boys' locker room? So obviously, the conversation about aggravated assault, sexual assault, or gang rape as it's more popularly known, is no longer part of this investigation. So does that mean the police then, Amita, is going to maybe drum down the charges or the FIR charges that they've brought into this investigation?
No, that doesn't go away, Steve. Like I pointed out, the boys' locker room case continues. There are two people currently, one person, in fact, who's been arrested. One person has been apprehended. And they are in conversation. I mean, they have spoken to a couple of other boys as well. They are tracking 3 or 4 boys is what we know. But the two juveniles who were involved in the other Snapchat chat are not involved in boys' locker room case. So the boys' locker room goes on as is, because there are violations in the IT Act. So that continues.
All right, Amita, thank you for bringing me that story. So effectively, the boys' locker room investigation continues. Just to clear up, arrested was obviously when someone is brought in and actually booked and arrested. Just apprehended is when the police pick you up for questioning. but don't actually arrest you. All right, we continue to bring you updates on this story as and when it develops, but big change here. And one conversation that upset a lot of people about the sexual assault or the planning of that gang rape, it turns out, was A, not part of the boys' locker room, and B, was actually a girl pretending to be a boy to try and figure out what the response is to that suggestion. All right, we're going to bring you more stories on this, but remember, for updates on what's going on, to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon so you get regular updates.